This video isn't an ownage video, it's actually just a video in response to a comment that was left by Apple Soldier on my YouTube channel. He stated that it'd be better to have a nice 30-inch Apple Cinema display like Mac Ward has rather than two 20-inch monitors. I disagree with that. I think it really depends on the software you're using more than anything else. What I have set up here with the preview window and the source monitor window is probably about what you'd see on Mac Ward system. I imagine if you was using Final Cut Pro, it'd be set up somewhat similar to this. Over here you'd probably have the timeline. Over here you'd have your bins of clips and probably effects. If I just pause this for a second, you can see it's pretty big, as well as this. If I click onto a clip in here, you can see it goes in the source monitor. I can hit play. If you know my effects over here, if I click on a clip, you're going to see the effects come in here, and I have my audio mixer down here. This is a pretty good way to edit video. As you can see, the program and source monitor are big enough where you could actually edit for a client. They wouldn't really have to squint too much. There'd be some squinting since it's not like looking at a big 14-inch NTSC monitor. I can actually just resize all this pretty simple if I want to make it a little bit bigger. But as I hit play, like I said, you could edit like this for a client. There wouldn't be anything wrong with it. As you can see, I can come in here on a PNP, double click it, go to effects, and hit the motion, and I can actually just click on this one and hit the one on the other layer, and I could butt them up against each other if I needed to, or place them exactly where I need to. I can see it, the client can see it too. It's not that hard to see. Like I said, I got the audio mixer controls down here, so the GUI isn't set up all that bad. If I come in here real quick into this transition into the titler, as you can see, I can stretch this out somewhat and make it bigger and smaller, and you're going to see the effects in here on the window, but there's a slight delay, as you can see, from when I hit this. And if you want to just right up above here, there's start and end. You can actually just hit like 30 in one, and then hit 30 in the other, and hit enter, and it'll stay stuck like that for the duration of the transition. And there's times when you might want to do a transition where it's kind of froze. You see it on TV quite a lot. I'll hit spacebar to pause it. I can actually hit this to actually make it the transition's a little bit different angle. Looks more like a square than anything else. And I'll hit this at 50-50. Just type it in. So now we're at 50-50 from start to finish. And I'm going to hit play, and of course we're getting some real-time effects. And it's not that hard on the eyes, especially for myself. I'm like, my eyes are like 2 feet away from it, so there's nothing wrong with editing this way. Like I said, if you had a client, you'd probably want to still put this out to the NTSC monitor. And this actually is how I usually edit when I got 2 VGA monitors plus my NTSC monitor that's connected to the DV converter. I would probably actually go into this type of a workspace that I have already pre-laid out and shrink it down to just one monitor. Now, I still got a pretty big timeline. I still got my effects control over here, which looks alright. I can actually stretch this out, as you can see, for the for the transitions. Actually, let me get back to where the transitions were, so you can actually see the effects as I do it. Like I said, there's a slight delay. You don't actually see it really happening in real time. Let me actually, well, I guess I'll just actually show you a little bit of the real-time effects. You don't really have to squint too bad. You as the editor don't. You can see it pretty decent because, like I said, you're like less than 2 feet away from it. But a client really wouldn't want to actually probably watch you try and do your edits like this. I can, hit the spacebar, pause it, and change the GUI somewhat if I want to. I'll actually just grab it here and make it bigger. I actually like it the way it was though, this size. I can obviously click in here, and here comes the source monitor. It's not too much different than using the two together. I can get by with this all right, but if I don't have my NTSC monitor to output, I can always use this second VGA monitor like an NTSC monitor for the most part. I just actually go into click, hit monitor, then hit play, and as you can see, it's actually outputting, to the monitor. Now I've got this disabled where it won't actually play it on. It's actually saying playing video on hardware. I do that because some clients, will have a tendency to look at the computer screen rather than looking at the NTSC monitor. If I disable this preview, then they're for sure going to look at the NTSC monitor. Well, in this case, they're just going to look at the other VGA screen. So let me just take this and drag it over, and let's get to where some pretty high-end effects are. As you can see, it's doing a nice 3D. It's got its Z-axis going right there. It's got a nice track mat with a vignette. So the real-time previews will look pretty decent as long as they're not really fast motion on the motion paths for text and P&P. So I can do track mats as I showed you with vignettes, put motion on. I'm getting emails saying, that Premiere can't do all the stuff that Final Cut Pro can do, like track mats with vignettes, and you don't have all the control with your transitions like you do with Final Cut Pro. And I just think a lot of Final Cut Pro users just never use Premiere. And I just want to state that there's really nothing that great about using a Mac Pro or Final Cut Pro. I mean, it's just a computer, as far as I'm concerned. The Mac Pro is just a computer, and Final Cut Pro is just a video editing software. If you actually compare it to Vegas, Avid, or Premiere, there's not too much of a difference. It's really just personal choice. Now, I can actually come in here real quick, and I probably should have done this earlier. I can output it to both, monitors simultaneously. And my buddy with his Final Cut Pro, depending on what he does, he actually had dual monitors hooked up. For a few days, we tested Premiere against, Final Cut Pro. He thought Premiere actually was a more refined editing system. But even if I just, let me just hit the spacebar, even if I just had one monitor, actually, I can hit the tilt key, and as you can see, I can, for client preview, if I just had a little laptop, get nice big previews that are going to take up the full screen. I'd probably just have this set at like 25%. This doesn't need to be big at all, folks, because as you can see, I'm going to actually click on this, and I can butt it up against your 100% correct. I get to actually see. You wouldn't look at this little monitor. You're going to actually look at the big NTSC simulation. And if I really got to be critical of the parameters, as you can see, I can use these little, dials here. So if I actually come into the transition, there was always like a slight delay, as you'd seen earlier, but now if I've got it output and use it like an NTSC monitor, you actually get to see it in real time. It will take effect on here as well, but there's just a slight delay. If you're trying to set up a logo or something on the screen, and you want to just clip it just right, we don't want to put some kind of a logo right in the middle and have these just kind of butt up against it. I mean, that's why it is nice to actually see this in real time. Now, I'm not sure if Final Cut Pro can be set up like this or not. What I'm actually going to do is just go in here and type in 30. I'm going to come in here and type in 30 as well, and because it was at 30.8. But as you can see, it actually outputs to this monitor in real time, and that can actually be really handy to have. You could, on Final Cut Pro, obviously just take this and drag it in here real quick too, and stretch it out, kind of simulate what I had if I put this on fit, and I can hit play, and as you can see, it's not dropping any frames. It hit right where there's a ton of effects. There's nothing wrong actually with editing this way either. As you can see, when I got it set up like this, the trims here, the audio mixer comes across here, my effects are over in here. If I sliding these parameters, as you can see, I can change the vignette.